Welcome. Welcome to our first Sacramento County Opioid Coalition meeting of 2023. Got a fairly packed agenda, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. I would like to thank all of the executive committee members of the Opioid Coalition, many of whom are on today's call. We spend an awful lot of time meeting once a month to go over all the activities of the coalition, figure out who's doing what with grants and what kind of funding that we need, and then of course planning these meetings for all of you so that you will all be informed of what we've been working on. So just really quickly, humor me, I'd like to thank them. Thank you, Ashley Zaru, Ed Juke, Felix Tran, Janet Tumonchel, John Hallman, Lori Slothtower, Lori Miller, Mark Ott, Dr. Melody Law, Dr. Olivia Kasiri, Samantha Motz, and finally Sean Vassar. And thank you also to Lauren Werner, who works for us here at the Medical Society. That's actually where I work, the Sierra Sacramento Valley Medical Society. And she is responsible for coordinating all of these meetings for us. So speaking of Lauren, I'm going to go ahead and call on her to kick things off. She has a community update for you all. So Lauren, take it away.
Hi there, can everyone hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Looks good. Okay, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm going to share my screen. Just have a few things I want to run through that we're preparing for in the new year. So I do want to take a moment to just remind you all and share about our Gone Too Soon Memorial Project. I'll put the link and my email in the chat, but these are just some photos of where we've been throughout the community the past 6 months. Since we've launched this last year, we've had over 15,000 members in our community be impacted by this project. That's going to schools. We shared this at our Opioid Awareness Summit at Sac State in October. And really, we're just looking for feedback and like more submissions at this time. On this webpage, it will bring you to, this is what it looks like, just to kind of give you a quick overview, a little description of our project on our website. Again, we're updating the email, so please email me. We have a permission form for those who are interested. The Memorial Project kind of gives an idea of what, not just what these people look like that we lost, but who they were. We like to include just a little bit more in-depth language when we refer to them. And then we have some flyers available as well if your organization is interested in displaying these. If you come across a lot of people who have lost loved ones to opioids. Like I mentioned, we have a permission form. It looks like this. It's very simple. We ask that next of kin please contribute, and then some pretty basic information as well. And then I'd also like to reiterate, this is all about just respect and holding a place for memorial and awareness for the massive amount of casualties that we've been experiencing these past few years. And everyone is welcome to revoke their permission at any time in this project. So there's freedom with that. In case, things change down the road, I know how that is. Let's see, going into next, I do want to announce that I'm currently working with finding a safe place and hosting a safe place for memorial and mourning for family and friends of our loved ones lost to the opioid crisis. During my time working as an AmeriCorps member, I met with so many different memorial fundraisers, celebration of lives, parent groups, and there just seems to be a huge craving and need for these members to connect. And we want to provide this opportunity in our community. In partnership with Monarch Recovery Homes. They are absolutely wonderful. They do amazing work, and they're getting established here in Sacramento. Their office is near our medical museum here, and so we're hoping to host at their site, and we're thinking weekends, possibly Sundays. and starting mid-February, but we're just kind of talking about it and getting it off the ground. So please, if you're interested in attending, participating in some way, sharing resources, feedback, and ideas, that's my email there as well. I really there's a huge need for this. People have kind of made their groups on their own via Zoom or maybe a memorial in the park. But I think just having that safe place without interruption and maybe see to be able to connect and celebrate, and maybe I know the life afterwards is never the same again. So maybe just sharing resources to help community healing in that way. Please reach out. And then lastly, we have a job opportunity. My old position at AmeriCorps is available, and I really just want to iterate how amazing it was. It really allowed me the freedom to focus on projects that I'm passionate in, the independence to explore my passions in harm reduction. These are all the coordinating organizations with it. Not only would you be working with AmeriCorps, but you'd be working with the Opioid Coalition, the National Overdose Prevention Network, and the Medical Society. And then I'll drop this link in there as well, but this is kind of the full job description and our contact information for this as well. So if you know anyone who would be interested, I also, please share. I also want to mention it is a stipend-based opportunity, but there's just a wonderful network of caring community. And at the end of the year-long commitment, because it would be a year-long, there's the Siegel Award, which right now is $6,900, and that goes to furthering your education. And in my experience, there's a lot of schools that are actually matching that right now, which is amazing. So there's about $14,000 towards your education. And I'll put that in the chat now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lauren. Lauren is actually our fourth AmeriCorps Vista that we've had working for the Opioid Coalition and for all of you. And I tend to hire those that to work at the Medical Society. So it's a great way to get into a professional field, but it is perfect for very recent college graduates. So if you know anyone that is as passionate about this work as people like Lauren, please share the information. It looks like Lauren just dropped it into the chat for all of you. Okay, so does anybody have any questions for Lauren before we move on? Feel free to drop them in the chat or to raise your virtual hand. Okay. All right, thank you, Lauren. So next we're going to move on to our first speaker. We're going to hear from District Attorney Ten Ho. And he'll be speaking on the DA's One Pill Can Kill campaign here in Sacramento County. So just a little background, Ten Ho was elected District Attorney of Sacramento County in 2022 and officially took office in January 2023. So prior to election, Ten served in executive management as the Sacramento County Assistant Chief Deputy DA, which handles post-conviction litigation training, community prosecution, and media outreach. Over Ten's 23-year career as an attorney, he successfully prosecuted sexual assault, gang, and homicide cases. So Ten, the floor is yours. Please take it away.
Great, thank you. I just want to make sure, can you hear me? I was having some issues earlier.
Yes, we can.
Perfect, awesome. Well, thank you very much. Well, first of all, good afternoon. I want to thank Lieutenant John Holman from the Sacramento Sheriff's Department. He is the one that had set this up for giving me the opportunity to speak before you today. And so I really wanted today to talk about really the fentanyl crisis that we're all aware of. And some of the issues with that is, and I'll give you some statistics. In Sacramento County, there were 88 identified fentanyl-related deaths in 2020. That number in 2021 jumped up to 116 fentanyl-related deaths. And in 2022, that number stayed the same. So since 2020, we are talking about 320 fentanyl-related deaths in Sacramento County, 320. That number is more than all the gun-related homicides that happen in Sacramento County. In Sacramento County, we have 1.55 million people that live in the county. Our DA's office has approximately 432 employees, and we are the second largest office in Northern California. And so what we're seeing here and what we're experiencing is a tremendous crisis when it comes to fentanyl-related deaths. And let's talk about some of the pills that we have seized, our law enforcement agencies, during that same time period. In 2020, we seized 622 pills, both powder and pill form of fentanyl. That's 622 in 2020. That's enough to kill almost 45,000 people. In 2021, the amount of pills, fentanyl pills that we recovered and seized jumped from 622 to 165,000 plus pills. That's almost a fourfold increase, enough to kill approximately 180,000 people. Now, fast forward to 2022, that number again has jumped. We've seized this year over 200,000 fentanyl pills in pill form, powder form, rock form, etc. And as many people are aware, all it takes is a few grains of fentanyl to kill. And 99% of the fentanyl that we recovered off the streets, when we test them and analyze them at our crime lab here in Sacramento, 99% of them contain fentanyl. So the vast majority of the counterfeit pills that are out there contain fentanyl. And so when we started seeing this crisis about a year and a half ago, the one pill can kill sac.com. That's the number one pill can kill sac.com. And so we started a public awareness campaign to really get this information out. When we're talking about PSAs, we're talking about a media campaign where we have been partnering with our crime lab, with the County Public Health Services Department. We're running billboards, TVs, flyers, posters, digital banners, print ads, next door, TV and radio, and public transit to really get the message out of the deadly effects of fentanyl poisoning. We are specifically not only just targeting in terms of this messaging, the general public, but also kids, teens, and young adults and parents. We have those that are as young as 15 and as old as 70 who died from fentanyl poisoning during this time frame. And so it knows no age, it knows no race, it knows no sex or demographic or financial capabilities or resources. And what we've discovered in terms of our investigation is that social media is the number one method that people are getting these counterfeit drugs. When you have somebody that's on, a lot of times teens, and I think my colleague, who's the district attorney from Placer County, Morgan Geyer, and my friend, they had the Didier case where Zach Didier died. And we've worked a lot with Laura Didier to really get the message out in terms of the education aspect. But what's often happened is our teens are using Snapchat, using social media to get these pills, and they think it's hydrocodone. They think it's Xanax, some other pill, and when they get it, they have no idea that it's counterfeit and that contains fentanyl, and the results are extremely tragic. So we have the public awareness campaign that we have. The other thing that we're doing as well is the educational campaign. We partner with different organizations, including many different groups to be in schools and to really arrive. Alive California is one of the organizations that we work with to be in schools, to give public awareness campaign, to have those discussions with our teens and our kids, but then to also reach the parents as well, because you have to have both components, the prevention, intervention, the education. And then the prosecution part of it as well is individuals who are committing these crimes, who are selling drugs, knowing that there's a high likelihood that they are selling fentanyl in a counterfeit form. Those individuals are given what we call a warning when they are convicted of selling drugs, so that we can prosecute them the next time for murder. And so those are some of the efforts that we're really working on to try to combat this crisis. Most recently, as of Halloween, we were aware of rainbow fentanyl that are now being sold in the community. They're targeting our children, especially around Halloween time. And even TSA and DEA were seizing fentanyl pills that came in candy packages. That's how frightening this is in terms of they're targeting our kids, they're targeting teenagers. And so we really have to be aware of it. So it's the prosecution side, but it's also the prevention, intervention, and educational aspect. And so a lot of these times when we're having these meetings, we're working with the community-based organizations. We're also working with our county health department and our crime lab as well. And I think you're going to hear from some of our crime lab members today during the panel discussion. But that's sort of an overview of what we are doing in Sacramento County, how we are partnering with other counties and other organizations and our friends in law enforcement to really tackle this crisis. And I'll open it for questions.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, feel free to drop it into the chat or raise your virtual hand, and I'm happy to call on you. Yes, you are on the harm reduction forum, Elon.
Lindsay Lawn has a question.
Yes, please.
Could you go a little bit more into the rainbow fentanyl?
Yes. So the way the fentanyl is being produced is this: the fentanyl is being manufactured in China, and then it's being shipped to Mexico, where the cartel essentially take the fentanyl and they put it that we've seen initially in from the powder form into pill form. And when you hold up these pills that you think is Xanax, the real one that you get from the pharmacy and the one that's counterfeit, they look exactly the same. And even our criminalists who examine it, it's really hard to tell the difference between the two until you've actually done the analysis. And what they're doing now is they're putting the fentanyl powder into what we call like a rainbow candy. And you see those rainbow candies that you get during Halloween, and they're putting them in Skittles and other forms as well. So they're really, in terms of targeting it and marketing that. And that's what we're seeing and we're seizing. And we've been doing investigations, some of it undercover that we're working on right now in trying to intercede with that. And we work with our partners on the federal level with the DEA and the FBI to try to stop that.
This is Shiloh. I have a quick question. When you catch catch these dealers, knowing that a large portion of users are kind of doing small dealing, are you able to offer them drug treatment and other social service connections in order to make it so they would less likely be interested in dealing?
You know, there's always a component to that. You know, the law was changed several years ago in regards to prosecution of even whether under the influence or the sale of drugs. And most of the sale of drugs now, they're misdemeanors. They're no longer felonies. And when the legislature reduced those to misdemeanors, there's real no punishment. And a lot of times, because of the changes in law, the drug dealers don't want treatment. And you offer to them and they still don't want it. And it isn't until we have stiffer penalties sometimes that we are able to, for lack of a better word, encourage or require treatment for that. But what we often do, and you think about it in terms of the warning that we give to those who sell drugs, it's like a DUI. If you are driving under the influence 1 time, 2 times, you understand and you're informed that driving under the influence is a dangerous act. And knowing that it's a dangerous act, if you continue to do it and you kill somebody, then you can be prosecuted for murder. It's what we call a Watson warning. And so that principle, you see some people, they get 4, 5, sometimes 6 DUIs, and they're giving that warning that it's inherently dangerous what they're doing. The drug dealers are given the same warning, the same opportunities to get treatment, to get services, but at the same time, they're giving a warning in terms of knowledge that what they're doing is dangerous to human life. And so we have all of that in place in our system. I do see some of the questions here in regards to that the numbers have gone up from 622 to essentially to 200,000. The numbers keep going up. It is a profitable business in terms of selling drugs, whether it is the cartel moving the fentanyl across the border and flooding the West Coast in the US with it, or whether or not it's the dealers. It is extremely profitable, and that's why they continue to do it. And that's why we continue to see the numbers go up.
Just in line with the previous question from Shiloh, Severin says that should we look at treatment as an opportunity to grow and self-improvement versus a punishment on the first offense? What are your thoughts on that?
And I'll tell you the truth. Oftentimes on the first offense, you have very little penalties involved, and there are always treatment and services that we offer with that. When we're looking at the drug dealers and the drug dealer that's going on, it's usually again and again or in larger quantities. I think there's sometimes a misconception that somebody who gets charged with drug use or gets charged with selling a small amount of drugs that they go to prison or they spend a lot of time in jail. That's absolutely not the case at all. There is very little punishment, frankly, for those offenses. And oftentimes there are drug courts, there's intervention available, but a lot of times people either they're selling it for profit or they're using it and selling it at the same time, but we can't force treatment, but we always offer treatment, especially when it comes to those who are under the influence. We have 14 different collaborative courts. And what I mean by the collaborative courts is they're alternative courts, meaning that instead of getting your typical sentencing and punishment, you have an opportunity to get treatment and services and all those things. But a lot of the drug courts have basically been gutted because of the changes in the law. But we continue to offer them. We continue to expand on a lot of those services as well.
Okay, another question I'm seeing here. Do you feel the campaigns are helping our communities? It seems the numbers just keep going up every year, and that's a great question.
It is a great question. We have actually seen the numbers begin to go down. The numbers were spiking early in 2022, but the numbers that we saw, they're beginning to go down. And I think that is part in terms of an awareness campaign, whether it's on the interdiction side to try to stop the fentanyl from coming into the country and being sold, but at the same time, trying to educate a lot of our young people, a lot of the community and parents in particular that really the fentanyl poisoning is really a crisis when you have this. And we've seen the numbers begin to go down and down. And it's about education and it's about prevention.
Another question in here from Susan. Can you tell us a little bit more about carfentanil, and is there any information on that? And have the numbers actually gone up on that as well?
You know, I'd have to go back and take a look at that. You know, we've been focused more on the fentanyl, but we'd have to go back and look at the animal tranquilizer. And I believe that we have somebody from our crime lab here today that could probably give more specifics on that, or we'll get that information and share it with you, Lindsay.
Okay, I see Felix, you have your hand up. Please go ahead.
Thank you. My question is, have you had experience working with like people or organizations outside of law enforcement or criminal justice that are initially ambivalent or skeptical about involving law enforcement or criminal justice? I've talked to some people who try to work in like drug overdose prevention, and some want to treat it purely as a health issue. Like they don't want to get any like police or courts or jail, correctional facilities, like anything involved in that. So I'm curious if you've had experienced any of that pushback.
You know, we do experience that. And we do have those that do not want to involve law enforcement, do not want to involve, for example, the district attorney's office. And what I always tell people is when we're talking about drug abuse, the first thing that we want to do is always deal with treatment, rehabilitation, all those things. But we only get involved in the district attorney's office when there has been a crime that has occurred and when it gets reported to us. That's the only time we typically get involved in terms of our constitutional mandate. But that doesn't prevent us from going out and working with different organizations. And I do it in different areas. And I'll give you one example. A lot of times, for example, in hate crimes, okay, with hate crime incidences, whether they be against the Asian, the AAPI community, the LGBTQ community, the African American community, or even certain faith-based, such as the Jewish community. A lot of times there are those that may not want to report it to the police for various reasons, whether they're afraid of immigration consequences or past experiences. And so what we do in my office is we have our community prosecution, community outreach. And so we go out into the community, we speak with the community, we're there educating with the community because violent crime and crime in general, they affect communities of color more than they affect other communities. And so that's a discussion to have. And part of that is really outreach and engagement with the community to try to build those relationships and build those partnerships so that there is that trust, so that we can work together to really deal with the drug addiction, the mental health, and also the violent crime that occurs as well. So we definitely experience that. Part of that is on, I think, law enforcement, and I think law enforcement is really having a concerted effort to go out and engage the community, work with the community, and not only build a bridge, but be that bridge with the community.
Awesome. Thank you.
So there's a question, how can you get in touch with us? So there's a couple of different ways. One is, I'm going to give you my email, so you can email me directly. My email, and don't laugh, it's HOT, so that's hot, at sacda.org. So that's HOT, hot, at sacda.org. That's one way of doing it. You can also learn more, and I think somebody put it in here, in regards to our website, which is onepillcankillsac.com. But those are different ways to reach out to my office. And Lauren, I see that you raised your hand, if I saw that correctly.
Yeah, thank you so much. My main question is maybe if you could enlighten us a little bit on the rehabilitation opportunities that are available for those incarcerated due to drug charges, and if you see any room for improvement there.
I always see room for improvement in everything that we do. And I'll give you one example in particular of really when it comes to substance abuse and how it can affect public safety. And I think this is one that a lot of people can understand. Those are DUIs, driving under the influence, whether it be alcohol or drugs. When we have a DUI treatment court, and that DUI treatment court is one of our alternative courts, one of those 14 collaborative courts that I talk about. And really when it comes to that is the people that are in that program, they often have 4, 5, 6 DUIs. So you're talking about somebody with some very serious issues that oftentimes when they are drinking and their blood alcohol level, all right, the legal level in California is 0.08. What we see oftentimes is people 3 times that amount, 3 times the amount in the 0.20 level, right? And they're out there driving, endangering all of us and themselves as well. And so we have a program where instead of sending them to prison, all right, and a lot of times those DUIs, when it becomes that many, it's a felony and they present a serious public issue. When we go to DUI drug treatment court, what happens is they have a person that follows them through it. They'll get a mentor, they'll go through their treatment, and they're followed up every couple of weeks. And the success rate may not sound like a lot, but it's about 60% success rate. And it's a 1 to 1.5 year long program. Now, if they finish that program as a measure of accountability, there's still jail time involved because you're talking about somebody that now has a felony, 4 or 5 DUIs, but that sentence is greatly reduced. And that great reduction is that carrot. It is that encouragement to try to encourage them and keep them on the track of getting those services that they need. That's an 1.5 hours. A lot of times, in addition to that, with a lot of our veterans, and we have a veteran court that a lot of our veterans are suffering from PTSD, substance abuse, mental health, those issues. And we'll work with the VA so that instead of incarceration, we're trying to get them treatment and services as well. But, you know, obviously, if somebody, for example, drove drunk and killed a family, well, they're going to have to be held accountable because there's a measure of accountability as well. In regards to that, you know, you've taken a life, but we do everything we can before then in terms of trying to make sure that there's treatment, there's intervention as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, last call for questions. Seeing none, Ken, thank you so much for joining us today. And we really appreciate all the work that you're doing in Sacramento and hope you can join us on this coalition and attend more of these calls to hear, what the rest of the community is working on, because it takes all of us. We are a coalition. So thank you again for coming. We appreciate it.
I do want to comment that we do need more treatment. I am absolutely in agreement with that. We don't have enough treatment beds, whether it comes to substance abuse or mental health. And so I know that we've been working with the Board of Supervisor and really the different departments that are in the county, the health department, to try to expand that. And they're working on those very things. And so thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with y'all today. And if you need to reach out to me, you know where to find me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, so move spotlight here. Moving on to our next presenter. We're actually going to hear a personal story and some lived experience, because I think we on the executive committee, we're in offices, we're in clinics, we're working one-on-one with people, but not all of us have lived experience. And so I think it's really important for all of us to hear where others are coming from. So today we're going to hear from Tony and Tawny Arms, and they are the parents of Josh, who at age 19 was lost to fentanyl. So Tawny, it looks like you're on the call. Thank you and welcome. Go ahead and take yourself off mute, and please, the floor is yours.
Okay, can you hear me? Yes, well, thank you for having me. I'll try to hold it together. So Tony and I had two boys, and I had some health issues. And so we didn't think we could have any more kids. But as God would do it, as God does, 18 years after our first two, he gave us Joshua. You can see him there. And so Josh was our little miracle child. And he grew up mainly in a country setting. He loved riding, hunting, fishing, and diving for crawdads in the river. He grew up playing baseball and football. And he participated in 4-H, where he won many awards with his welding, his woodwork, archery. He won 3rd in state. And he was deeply loved by his family, especially his nieces and nephews, his nieces and one nephew. He was always up for an endless game of tag, and they simply adored him. Well, Josh attended Folsom High School, where he played football. He was enjoying his senior year immensely, but it was cut short by COVID. He was very disappointed. He was basically an only child because his older brothers had grown and left home. And being around his friends was majorly important to him. They got together whenever they could. And I think that when they did, they would be outdoors at parks and the lake and things. And I know that they would often probably do some drinking. So he graduated, and shortly after, he got a job. And when he turned 18, he decided he was going to move out, probably so he could have some unrestrained fun with his friends. Being raised, my husband's a pastor, so being raised in a pastor's home, he knew that underage drinking and those kinds of things were not permitted. So I think that he was drinking and experimenting with recreational drugs. And, he was a smart kid, and he was good at football, and he was accepted into every college that he had applied to, and his coach had believed that he could play college ball. So we were able to get him up to college and out of state college. and everything seemed to be going well, except for just a few short months later, he called to say that he wasn't doing well, and he decided to come back. So he moved back in with his friend and got a job, and we thought things were going fine until we got a message that he was in the ER. And since it was COVID, usually you couldn't get into the hospital unless it was dire. And this is what we found. Let's see if you can see it. Anyway, that's just basically on life support. So he went from this strong, healthy young man to almost dead. That wasn't the time that killed him, though. He had been partying the night before with his friends, and he had passed out, and they left him on his side to sleep it off. And the next morning, late in the morning, they thought he was still sleeping it off until he seemed to having difficulty breathing, and they got him to the emergency room. Well, they had been taking Percocet, from what I understand, and probably laced with fentanyl. And being left on his side, like kids will do, leaving someone on their side, they think that's a safe way for them to sleep something off. The pressure on his arm led to compartment syndrome. Because there was no oxygen getting to the muscles in his arm, the muscles start to swell. And the casing around each muscle group can only stretch so far when the muscle starts to swell. When that happens, it swells too much, the muscle begins to die. And the enzymes released through the body start shutting down all of your organs. Josh had kidney failure, liver failure, was having heart failure. The last thing they had to check for was to see if he had brain damage. Thankfully, he didn't have brain damage at that point, and they discovered the swelling in his arm. So they had to do emergency surgery to slit open his arm, like an 8-inch slit to open up that, to release the pressure on the muscles. Immediately, the enzyme levels started dropping. And then he was in the ICU for 3 days, in the hospital for 2 weeks. He had to have dialysis because he had liver failure. Eventually, he was released from the hospital. His kidneys started to work again. Thankfully, because of his age, his organs were able to recover. So after this, he was home. And we thought for sure this instance of this happening, that he would never do something like this again. So his recovery was really difficult because all the nerves, his arm swelled so much, all the nerves in his arm were damaged. He had no control over his arm, his left arm at all. There was so much pain. And because evidently he'd been taking these Percocets for a bit, his resistance to them had increased. So the painkillers they were giving him did nothing for him. And he was in a huge amount of pain. We had him home, we had him recovering. But later we found that he had, several weeks later, he had texted a friend, please bring me some perks, which are Percocets, because my arm hurts so bad. And what he had wasn't affecting it. So this started a vicious cycle of recovery and being fine for several weeks to months, and then he did it again. He took something laced with fentanyl, where we had to revive him at home. Thankfully, the hospital had given us Narcan, which is an antidote, basically, or counteracts fentanyl, and it's sprayed in the nose. And we actually had to give him chest compressions and Narcan until the EMTs would arrive. After that, he would be fine. We'd get him to the doctor and we would try to get him into counseling. And since he was 18, he would refuse the counseling. He would say, I'm fine, I'm not going to do this anymore. And eventually he was able to get back to work, and he was came home one night and he seemed fine. He had been over to a friend's, and I think he maybe had said he had something to drink, because I was worried he was acting a little off. And when my husband told him good night, he said, "You're okay, you don't have anything, right?" And he said, "No, I'm fine. I'm just going to get something to eat and go to sleep." And because we were in this vicious cycle, we were so on such high alert. Anytime I woke up, I would go check on him. And so the last time I saw him was 1 a.m. And I woke up at 2 a.m. and checked on him, and he was sitting upright at his desk, and he was gone. It had only been an hour, and we tried CPR and we tried Narcan, we tried everything, but he was gone. There was nothing we could do at that point. And I'm here to share his story so that this won't happen to others. And I'm willing to answer any questions anyone has.
Bonnie, thank you so much for sharing your story and Josh's story. And as a parent, just as a human being, it's I think we all just want to really hug you right now. And there's so many people commenting in the chat. I don't know if you can take a look at this when we're done, but there's been a lot of comments, and we all really appreciate you sharing this. And it is important to hear these stories and to share with the hope that we can prevent this from happening with somebody else. So in that vein, what advice could you possibly share with parents who maybe have kids away at school and are maybe worried for their well-being? What would you say to those parents who might be on the call today?
Well, he actually tried his first one at college. He was making new friends, and he had told me that he felt socially he was really shy, and I know that he probably was drinking to make friends to overcome that shyness. And socially awkward is what he told me. And he told one of his older brothers that the first time he had fentanyl was at college, and I'm sure he was drinking and someone offered him one. And we found out later, through all this, we found out Josh did have some underlying health issues, and we were working on that. And we had just had a doctor appointment that morning. We had a SPECT brain scan done, and it turned out he did have ADD, and he did have some brain swelling and an old some frontal lobe injury from a time he fell and hit his head really bad. And he had some depression and things like that. So I think it's really important to just keep an open dialogue with your kids. Let them know this stuff is out there, that you can't trust any recreational drug. There's just no such thing anymore as a safe high. So it's just really important to talk to them about that and tell them what happened to Josh. Because once you take that, I think there's something that it does to your brain. You're hooked. There's something evil about that stuff.
Thank you for answering that question. I'm just looking through the chat here. Again, just a lot of outpouring and thanks and hugs and lots of love being sent your way. Does anybody have any questions? If you'd like to raise your virtual hand or just speak up.
I have a quick question. I was wondering if at any point were you talking to his coaches? I know you said you were, or he was in sports and he was doing sports in college. And I guess I'm just wondering if your opinion on discussing, encouraging these college sports departments and these coaches to be better trained on how to prepare and respond to game injuries, because I feel like a lot of that pain, that inevitable pain that comes after these sports injuries, is kind of the gateway to these kids looking for solutions.
Yeah, he actually had just started college and hadn't connected with the football team yet. He was going to try to be a walk-on, and so that wouldn't have happened maybe until the spring, and he came home before that. He wasn't having that problem when he was in football here in Folsom, but his coaches now know about it, and everybody's just broken over it. But we're doing what we can to help, get on and do speaking and making, helping with the awareness.
I'm so sorry. Thank you so much for speaking today.
Yes, Tani, thank you. I'm just on behalf of everybody on the call. We are grateful that you were willing to be so vulnerable and share your story. And it does make a difference. I can tell you that. It absolutely does. And we really appreciate you. So thank you for coming today.
I have a quick question.
Oh, one more, Robin.
Nope, Rebecca.
Oh,
I did have my hand up.
Okay, sorry.
go ahead.
I just had a question on his friends, because I'm like, he was getting some from his friends, or his friends knew the dealer and stuff. Did they come by when he was hurting like that, and what did they think? Especially now that he, has passed on.
Well, we found out he had gotten on Snapchat to ask for perks, and someone connected him with a dealer. And one time at home here when he was with us, he evidently contacted a dealer, and we heard a motorcycle pull up, a street bike pull up in our neighborhood. And Josh said, "Oh, I have to go out and get some out of my car." So I looked out and I saw him go up to the guy on the motorcycle. And I said, "Who was that?" And he said, "Oh, it's just a buddy who was in the area. You want to stop and say hi?" So the next time I heard that motorcycle, I was suspicious. So the next time I heard that motorcycle, I asked my husband to go out in the park right behind us and just watch. And this delivery boy walked across the little park behind our house right up to our back fence, and he was going to deliver right to our back fence. And so they have no problem. It's easy access to get it, and it's like $20 a pill. And what they do is they learn that if there's fentanyl in it, they have to cut it up and make smaller pieces, little tiny pieces. One time when my son OD'd, I said, "Why did you do that?" He says, I just miscalculated.
Thank you so much for sharing.
And his friends, who were his, high school friends, they did come by, and a lot of them did quit doing any of those kinds of things. We know who the drug dealer is, and he hasn't been caught yet because they have to catch him in the act of selling. And they've watched him, but they haven't been able to catch him, which to me, as we know. I have bank records.
Well, Tawny, thank you again for sharing today. And, I hope that you will come back and join in on this coalition and, keep Josh's voice and your voice a part of this conversation that we're all having from all these different sectors, trying to figure out how to make sure that this doesn't happen. So thank you. Okay. So we're going to go to our last set of speakers. And these are definite friends of the Medical Society, and a big reason why we even have this opioid coalition to begin with. We're going to hear from Michelle Bess, who is the Clinical Health Program Manager for Sacramento County Department of Health Services, Substance Use Prevention and Treatment, and Lori Miller, who is the Division Manager of the Substance Use Prevention and Treatment Unit for Sacramento County. And they're going to give you an overview today about county resources and some updates on fentanyl education that they have. Just real quick, a little background. Michelle has been in the field of substance use and mental health treatment for over 20 years. And her passion is sharing and collaborating with different agencies and departments to increase positive outcomes for high-risk clients. And Lori Miller has over 20 years of experience in behavioral health. And as a behavioral health division manager, she provides strong leadership, passionate advocacy, and a commitment to integrated services, working to really reduce stigma and address trauma for those that are struggling with behavioral health challenges. So Lori, Michelle, the floor is yours. Please take it away.
Thank you, Lindsay, for that very nice introduction. And I just want to say hello to everyone on the call and thank you for being here and really caring about this issue in our community that certainly is not going away. We appreciate all of your partnerships and collaboration. And I want to start with my presentation, I think, as I kind of build upon DA Ho's acknowledging all of the partnerships and collaborations that it takes to really tackle an issue as serious as this crisis that we have here in Sacramento County. And so what I want to start with is to share with you the many ways that we are addressing this through prevention efforts and treatment efforts. And then I will turn it over to Michelle, and she will go over all the programming that we have available for people that may be struggling with substance use, from the prevention side, again, to the treatment side, and how to access those services. So I'll go ahead and share my screen if I'm able to do so, and go over a document with you all. Okay, are you able to see what I have on the screen here?
I think it's still loading. There we go.
I can see it.
Okay. So what I have here is just kind of a listing, like I said, of Sacramento County opioid overdose, fentanyl poisoning awareness and prevention efforts here in our county. We are doing so much as a community, and really it takes all of us here on this coalition. And some of you we may not be partnering with yet, but we hope to partner in the future. And so please reach out to us following this presentation if you'd like to partner in any way with us to address opioids or fentanyl. So for number one, our partnership with the Sacramento County District Attorney's Office. And again, I want to thank Tin Ho for being here and taking time out of his busy schedule to acknowledge that we have a huge problem here in our county. And, many lives are being lost. As he indicated, in 2021, 116 people died. And in 2022, I have some recent coroner office data. It's over 137 people that have died here in our county as of November of 2022. And so, the District Attorney's Office, in partnership with the Sacramento County Department of Health Services, Substance Use Prevention and Treatment, appreciate this collaboration around the OnePillCanKillSac.com. So this has been going on for 2 years now, this coalition effort. And again, it's not slowing down, and we need more partners involved in this effort as we move forward. So here on the screen, again, you have the website. I just want to share that we did have a safety fair at the state capitol, and I hope to have another one this year. very well attended, about 350 people. We also had 2 fentanyl awareness virtual town halls. And again, we're going to continue to have this platform for our community to come together to talk about this issue and ask questions and get involved. So we are doing quite a bit. Number 2, in regards to the addition to the partnership with the district attorney's office, we've added a new partner, and Sacramento County Department of Health Services has contracted with an organization, as DA Chin Ho referenced earlier, called Arrive Alive Sacramento. In addition to many grieving families across our region that have lost lives to this horrible drug. So what we're doing right now with this component of the OnePillCanKillSac.com campaign is going out into middle schools and high schools throughout Sacramento County. And we have touched hundreds, maybe even thousands of lives through, these efforts of providing education and awareness in the schools. And again, the district attorney comes out, his crime lab team comes out, grieving families are there sharing their heartbreaking stories. And then our office, the Department of Health Services, is there to provide that support and prevention and treatment options for people that may be struggling. And so again, this is a partnership that will go through June of this year, but we are working on funding to expand this effort because we really need to get the word out there. And although we heard comments, yes, the numbers may be going up, or they may have shifted, they may have gone down a little bit, or vacillated. But the point is, the more people that know this information and the dangers of fentanyl, the more lives we're going to save. And so I believe in these efforts that we're making. Thirdly, we have a Sacramento County Narcan or naloxone distribution program happening right now, where we have distributed over 2,000 kits in public-facing county buildings and lobbies across Sacramento. This is to homeless encampments. This is to community-based organizations. Anybody that reaches out to us for Narcan, Michelle kind of leads this effort, and we provide it to our community. So when we're going out to these schools, we actually meet with the parents and have a parent Q&A prior to that, and offer the schools as well as the families free Narcan. And then we also talk to people about how they can order their own Narcan. If you're an organization that's serving our community, you have the directions you're provided the directions to be able to order it yourself. And again, if you have questions, Michelle's going to put her information in the chat for you if you have questions about getting your own. So we are going to continue this partnership. This is certainly needed. As well. Next, again, our coalition and all of you that participate on this coalition makes a difference here in our community. And these listed here are many of the ways that the coalition is taking action and wanting to really reduce the number of people that are overdosing and dying and being poisoned in our community. Next, I just want to highlight, we did have an opioid summit this past year in October. Again, this was a huge partnership with the U.S. Attorney's Office, the Department of Health Services, Sierra Sacramento Valley Medical Society, our local CVC HIDA partners, Sacramento Sheriff's Office, Sac State University, and Sacramento County Public Health. And we want to have more summits like this moving forward. And we're in discussion right now to maybe have a fentanyl specific way to be able to provide information to our community, hopefully this year. And then next, I'm not going to be remiss and not mentioning our wonderful prevention providers here in Sacramento County, and all the efforts that they make out in our community is hitting thousands of people. And so I certainly wanted to acknowledge our prevention partners and our Sacramento County Coalition for Youth, as well as our Sacramento County Coalition our Behavioral Health Advisory Board. And these are young people that are actually having a voice at the table to address many of these substances that are out there, not just opioids and fentanyl, but of course, young people that are struggling with alcohol, marijuana as well. So if you want information about the work that our young youth coalitions are doing, the website is there for you, sacramentoccy.org. Our prevention providers are out there distributing information. They are part of our Friday Night Live, Club Live programming that has had national recognition. They do what they can on social media for us. And so I just want to make sure we're thanking them for all of those efforts. So Sacramento County is really stepping up and from all angles, all lenses, really trying to address this issue. And then some of the events we've had this past year: Fentanyl Poisoning Awareness Day, Opioid Overdose Awareness Day, Recovery Happens at our state capitol, which is an annual event that was in September. And again, these are opportunities for us to get the message out of the dangers of fentanyl, the dangers of opioids, where to get help, how to provide support, how to get involved in our community and the work that we're doing. And then lastly, I just kind of want to share with folks that we have some new funding coming down to Sacramento County, and we're exploring ways of utilizing this funding to address opioids and fentanyl poisoning in our community. And so if you guys have ideas, the Department of Health Services is certainly open to hearing any of those ideas, because there's so much work we have yet to do to address this. I just want to also share that and emphasize the importance of not just prevention and treatment, but the partnerships and collaborations that are truly the key to this great work that we're doing, because we all have to have a voice and be the voice for these victims, for these young people like Josh, and like Zach Didier, and many of the young people that have died and that we acknowledge and honor through our memorial poster project. So again, if you know somebody that has struggled or has lost their lives to fentanyl, we want you to reach out to us, because we want to make them part of the work that we're doing to save lives in this county. We also had recently a presentation January 19th, just last week at Sac State, to the student health staff. So I just want to thank Janet for the opportunity, the invitation there. And now we're hitting college campuses. So again, the more we can get the word out, provide education, raise awareness, is really going to be the key to saving lives here in our county. So with that, I'll take any questions from anyone, and then I will be turning it over to Michelle to kind of share how we link people up to services, what happens there, and what services we provide here in Sacramento.
Looks like there's a question in the chat. I've noticed more students are carrying Narcan with them. Is that something we should be encouraging?
We definitely encourage anybody to be carrying Narcan, to have it readily available, to have it readily accessible. There may be some challenges if they're having it on school campuses or whatnot, but the Department of Health Services is recommending that if you can get Narcan, have Narcan. Keep it in your purse, keep it in your car, keep it in your desk at work. Every family should have access to Narcan here in this county. At least, one box in an emergency situation, have it readily available. And so during these public events that we're having, these school events, we're providing it free to the community. At times it can be difficult though to acquire Narcan. There is a cost associated with it. If you're getting it through a prescription, through your doctor, and you're going to a pharmacy, it can be anywhere from $20 to $100 for the box of 2 doses of Narcan that we are providing for free. So yes, we totally support anyone having Narcan.
Somebody asked a question, what ages is the Youth Coalition for? I'd like to look into what they do.
I know that we have our prevention providers on this call, and I can certainly weigh in, but I believe that any youth, I'm thinking, 12 on up, that is interested in participating on the coalition. We do have youth ambassadors. We have young people that kind of are the voice for these adults and these various community organizing individuals that are part of this coalition. But the youth, they make decisions on behalf of Sacramento County and provide those recommendations to the county on the youth services that are needed, or the, maybe the strength areas or the service gaps and those kinds of things. So there is a coalition meeting that happens monthly, and you can jump on the website and get all of that information. They also are a part of many initiatives here in this county to reduce underage drinking and marijuana use. Those are the 2 primary things. And now fentanyl education and awareness as well for young people. And so you can jump on that website, and there's some links on there for contacting some of our providers. So if there's no other questions for me, I would love to be able to turn it over to Michelle Bessie. She is our new health program manager for Sacramento County Department of Health Services, Substance Use Prevention and Treatment. And so she oversees all of our clinical programming. And so I wanted all of you to meet her, hear from her, and she'll be a contact for you if you're working with anyone who is struggling with substance use and may need help. So Michelle, with that, thank you.
Thank you so much, Lori. And let's see if I could share my screen and we will go over my PowerPoint. I'm super excited to be here and share this with you guys today. Okay, can everybody see my screen okay? Perfect. Well, let's just talk a little bit about Sacramento County Substance Use Prevention and Treatment Services. So our vision is that we envision a community where people from diverse backgrounds, from different areas of life, have the opportunity to experience optimum wellness here in Sacramento. Our division manager is Lori Miller, who you just heard from. We have two, what we call sides of the house. We have Ed Juke over our administrative services and myself over the clinical services. So that includes all our contracted providers, our system of care, our perinatal programs, all the clinical services here in Sacramento County for substance use prevention and treatment services. So we've had a huge response to COVID-19. I know initially we thought COVID-19 was going to be a temporary thing, but it has continued. It has enabled us to use telehealth services, which have proven to be very effective for substance use treatment. Unfortunately, COVID outbreaks in our residential facilities have created some challenge and halted admissions and delayed some placements at times. And substance use assessments in the jails have had difficulties at times due to COVID as well. But in general, we are going strong and continuing to work out there in the community. And the use of telehealth services we found has really assisted our community and our providers in having easy access to services and really reduced barriers for transportation. Our services are available in all 7 threshold languages here in Sacramento County. We embrace cultural and linguistic diversity in our community. And we also have culturally and linguistically competent staff and services provided free of charge for all people looking for substance use and treatment services. Our drug Medi-Cal organized delivery system went into effect in 2019. This has increased requests for substance use services due to the DMC waiver and continued community outreach regarding details of services and different services that are offered through the waiver. We have successfully implemented a variety of new services, which includes case management and really working to link our clients to different services in the community, physician consultation. We've expanded medication-assisted treatment, expanded residential treatment, and expanded withdrawal management. We are continuing to strive in our efforts towards increasing withdrawal management services, residential services, recovery services, and youth services. We have a continuum of care here based on ASAM, which includes withdrawal management and detox, residential treatment, outpatient services, intensive outpatient services, medication-assisted treatment, prevention services, drug diversion programs, specialty courts, DUI services, our perinatal services for pregnant and parenting women, also referred to as options for recovery, and our sober living, also known as recovery residents. We really focus on the needs of the client and meeting them where they are in their journey, and that drives our focus of care. We're also doing most of our work based on ASAM and medical necessity, so really focusing on the level of care that people need and meeting them where they're. We have a number of assessment and referral access points here in Sacramento County. We have our system of care, assessments in the jail, assessments at guest house, primary care center, the probation department, youth detention facility, child protective services team, and collaborative court team. At system of care, this is our main point of entry, where people are able to get an assessment Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, by calling the number below. Most appointments are same day or next day service. This is a 45-minute phone assessment, where at the end of the assessment, clients are referred to the level of care that meets their current substance use disorder needs. We also have a number of federal priorities. These include pregnant IV drug users, pregnant women, IV drug users, multi-system involved clients, and all other clients. Our focus is getting these high priority clients into service as quickly as possible. Just an overview of our outpatient and intensive outpatient levels of care. So these are two different levels of care. The outpatient is typically less than 9 hours per week, and for adolescents is 6 hours per week. This includes specialty groups, perinatal services, co-occurring. We have specialty groups for fathers, Prop 36, and other various population-specific groups. We also have a higher level of care, which is called intensive outpatient services. So these are 9 hours or more per week, used to treat multidimensional clients who have a more severe substance use disorder and require that high intensity of treatment. In addition, we're looking to add and currently in process of adding level 1 and level 2 outpatient withdrawal management. Some of these can be done through our NTP programs. We also have a 21-day detox program and 180 detox day program. We have withdrawal management in residential, level of care 3.2, based on ASAM criteria, and this is within a residential treatment facility. We have residential treatment, 2 levels here in Sacramento County. One is 3.1, which is a structured substance use disorder treatment and recovery services that are provided in a 24-hour residential care setting, with patients receiving at least 5 hours of clinical service every week, but at least 20 hours of services during the week. So 5 of those are clinical and there are 20 hours total. In the 3.5 residentials, these are 24-hour structured living environments with high intensity clinical services for individuals who have multiple challenges to recovery and require a safe, stable recovery environment combined with a higher level of treatment. We have numerous NTP programs here in Sacramento County, also referred to as narcotic treatment programs for opioid addiction and stabilization. These include counseling, methadone, and other FDA-used medications. We have a lot of coordination of care that's also set up within our NTP programs. We also have additional MAT services, including buprenorphine, Suboxone, naltrexone, naloxone. We have in-county program sites and also out-of-county program sites. Sober living, also known as recovery resident services, we offer here through Sacramento County, 24-hour residents, where it's drug-free housing for individuals in outpatient or intensive outpatient treatment who need the support of drug-free housing to support their sobriety and recovery while they're in treatment. We have beds for women and their accompanying children. We also have limited beds for men, but we also have beds for men with children. Some of those are limited, and those are currently out at the Mather Community Campus. We are also very excited because TLCS Hope Cooperative is about to open a new sober living home. So that is very exciting news for us. We're continuing to expand this level of care here in Sacramento. We have youth treatment providers across Sacramento County who provide substance use treatment for clients 12 and up. We also have some specialty TAY youth services, so that age 18 to 25. These are located in the community and in schools. We have treatment for alcohol and other drugs. We are excited. We've been working on this for a little while. We have a youth residential treatment program who hopefully will be coming soon. In addition to youth treatment, we also have a very active prevention programs here in Sacramento. This includes Friday Night Live, Club Live, Friday Night Live mentoring programs, leadership and advocacy programs. We have youth engaged in action, community education for drug-free youth, families and communities together, Sacramento County Coalition for Youth, active parenting of teens, Family Matters, Teens in Action, and our newest ad is our new provider, Arrive Alive California. So we are very excited to have a number of prevention programs here throughout Sacramento County. Our options for recovery program is a perinatal program, which includes outpatient, intensive outpatient, withdrawal management / detoxification services, residential treatment, which also allows women with children up to 5 years old who can live with their mother in the residential program. It includes a transitional recovery residence living, case management, and educational for women's perinatal services. We also have childcare for the children while their moms are in treatment. We have collaborative court programs, which includes recovery court, family treatment courts, mental health treatment court, reentry court, veterans treatment court, Prop 36, our CNO program, DUI treatment courts, and drug diversion programs. Our DUI programs are state licensed. We have first offender and various programs through that, along with multiple offender programs. We have a number of coalitions. I'm sure you guys are all well aware of our Sacramento County Opioid Coalition, which is our meeting today, but also our Methamphetamine Coalition and our Sacramento County Coalition for Youth. We have other great partnerships going on with UC Davis Medical Center, Primary Health, and Sacramento County Health Center partnerships and public health partnerships. In addition to those, we have partnerships with child welfare services, a criminal justice partnership, and hospital partnerships. We've been working diligently with many other providers in the community to really focus on reducing the negative effects of substance use here in Sacramento County. Thank you so much.
So Michelle, there are a couple of questions for you in the chat. The first is, if I have a patient who has CPS, do I have them call a CPS worker or system of care?
If they want substance use treatment, they can call the system of care and let them know that they have a CPS case, and we have a specialized CPS team that will assist in linking them to services.
Okay, another one. I'm wondering how to get a Medi-Cal funded adolescent into residential substance treatment. I work with many parents that are being turned away because the programs do not accept Medi-Cal. Not CPS. What is the best route for these families? Good question.
That is a good question. So currently we do not have a residential contracted with Sacramento County for youth services. We're currently working on that. But if you reach out to me, my email is in the chat and we will definitely work with you and see what we can get organized and see what the options are available on this specific case. So please email me directly.
And although we don't have a youth residential program in place right now, we're hoping to in the next 6 months. We are in communication with a provider right now that's getting Drug Medi-Cal certified and community care licensed in order to provide this level of service. And so Michelle's team currently then would assess the young person and refer them out of county if their family is agreeable to having them go out of county for this level of care. So there are only a handful, unfortunately, of programs across the state right now that offer this level of care.
Can I follow up and ask a question with that? I'm sorry. Thank you for that. And thank you, Lori. So if a client has Sacramento County Medi-Cal and they're seeking residential substance abuse treatment for a kiddo that has not been successful with an outpatient-based substance abuse treatment Medi-Cal funded program, do they go through the regular AOD assessment then to get Medi-Cal, to get an assessment like an adult would be for Medi-Cal funded treatment facility, or do they call a facility directly and then do it that way? Like, what's the best continuity of care for a kiddo? Because it's just been a struggle. I've been in the field for a long time and haven't had much luck with this. So I'm trying to just find the best and most easiest route for a parent, for a child who's had many not successful services outpatient, because the child needs residential.
Absolutely. And it is difficult navigating both the substance use system and the mental health system. But what I would say to families is to have them contact the system of care, Michelle's office, get the assessment completed. That's the number one thing that we need to have done. And then certainly if there's no program here in our county, there are some residential programs that Michelle's team would then do work with, like a warm handoff to our neighboring county who maybe has that service in place to ensure that that young person is getting the care that they need. There's lots of youth in our county and in surrounding counties that need residential. We know that. And unfortunately, we have this huge gap, but we're filling that gap, we're hoping, in the next 6 months.
Thank you so much.
I'm really happy to hear how many resources you guys have now for youth. I know that's been a huge gap, and that's one of the main questions I get asked all the time. And so I really love seeing all the new things you're rolling out. I do have a quick question. Michelle, you had that wonderful slide about those prevention programs, all kind of like youth geared and youth organized. How do we get in contact? How would the community be able to kind of connect with those programs for their youth?
So the best way is to email me.
Okay.
And I will absolutely hook you up with our youth program or prevention program coordinator, Joyce Bartlett, and get people linked. So.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
We want them linked directly to the provider site. So we have 4 prevention providers that Sacramento County currently contracts with, but yeah, our program coordinator can provide those contacts to any individual that wants more information on those particular prevention programs that Michelle listed.
Yes, I just want to make sure I get people linked to the right one. So please, yeah, reach out to me, and depending on the area that they're in, we'll make sure we link you to the correct provider.
Perfect, thank you.
And our emails are actually .gov now. So Michelle, do you want to put the correct one?
I forgot. We migrated over to .gov.
It's brand new, so I don't want people if it's kicked back or something. So Bessie M at saccounty.gov and Miller Lori at saccounty.gov.
There's one more question that just popped up in the chat. Are those youth programs providing support to deal with parents suffering from substance use disorders?
I think some of those youth programs, yes, deal with the whole family. And if there's an identified substance use issue, our prevention providers, partner with Sacramento County Department of Health Services and our youth treatment providers in ensuring that people at least get the referrals made to get the help that they need. But yes, the prevention programs do assist with the parents, not just for parenting and being able to talk about sensitive issues around substance use or mental health or sexual health and those things, also making sure people get linked to the appropriate care.
Okay, I think we took care of all the questions in the chat. Does anybody else have anything they would like to ask? Going once, going twice? Okay, so before we close out, I think Michelle did touch on this briefly, but it would be a shame if someone from the medical society, me, didn't mention the huge change in the law that has happened on December 29th with the signing of the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2023. Congress eliminated the X-waiver program, which hopefully most of you already know and know what a big deal this is to the medical community and to the treatment community. So this means that a provider, a nurse practitioner, a physician's assistant, or a physician no longer is required to have an X-waiver to treat patients with buprenorphine for opioid use disorder. So going forward, all prescriptions with buprenorphine will only require the standard DEA registration number. Again, nothing else is needed, no X-waiver. And this also means that there are no longer limits or patient caps for the number of patients that a prescriber can treat with opioid use disorder. You'll recall in the past, there was a cap of 250, there was a cap of 100 at one point. So this really should, in theory, open up services to a lot more people here in Sacramento County and across the United States, as long as their state government doesn't have some weird law in place. So huge win. I know that a lot of us on the call today have been fighting for this for many years. And now that this barrier is gone, I look forward to seeing the number of buprenorphine prescriptions going up in Sacramento County, which is something that we can actually track on the California Opioid Dashboard. So before we close out, if you have any topics or presentations that you think that we should consider having for our next coalition meeting or sometime later this year, please email Lauren. Lauren, would you mind dropping your email in the chat just one more time for me? Email Lauren any ideas or speakers or topics that you may have, and we will absolutely discuss it at the next executive meeting and see what we can do to make sure that this coalition is working for all of you. In that, our next coalition meeting is Monday, April 17th from 2 to 3:30, again, right here on Zoom. Thank you all for joining us today, and you are welcome. You have 3 minutes back. Thank you.
Thank you, Tani, for sharing your story.
Yes.
Josh's story. Thanks everyone for all their hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.